This is our first section. In this course, we're going to be using a graphing calculator a lot to show us the relationship between our two variables x and y. So before we do that, though, let's just talk about what we have here. So we have an equation. This is x plus y equals 7. And it's asking, is 3, 4 a solution? So to do that, we have our ordered pair x comma y. And so that means x is 3 and y is 4. And so if we plug them in, we get 7. So that means yes, 3 comma 4 is a solution to x plus y equals 7. So when we're doing these problems, that's what we have to look at. When you're given this relationship between y and x, it's a relation. There's a set of ordered pairs that make this equation true. And in order to graph it, you need to know what they look like. So the standard way to do each of these is to solve for y. So if we solve for y, we're going to subtract x squared. And we get minus x squared plus 5. So subtracting x squared to both sides, we get this equation. The reason we want this in this form, and this is not always the case that you can do this, but if you can, you do. What we're looking for now are our solutions. And by doing this, it gives us I'm able to plug in a set of ordered pairs. So if I plug in our standard -1, 0, 1, that's 1 to the left of 0 and 1 to the right. You can do 2. Any set of ordered pairs. We have an infinite number of solutions to this equation. So if we plug them in, we would get y equals, this is for x equals -1. We would get positive 1 squared. That's negative. So negative plus 5 is 4. It's one solution. And then if we plug in x equals 0, you notice I'm putting parentheses wherever the x is. You always want to substitute with a parenthesis. So we would get 0 plus 5, which is 5. And then this would give us 4. So we have 3 solutions, 3 ordered pairs. But you could even sit here and just plug numbers in. So I already know that 1 squared plus 4 would be 5. So 1 comma 4. And that -1 squared plus 4. So if I were to just sit here and plug in 2 numbers, I know that is true. I could even say, what can I plug in here? So 0, right? 0 squared plus 4 plus 5 is equal to 5. These are our solutions to this equation. But by solving for y, it allows us to plug it in nicely. So we do the same thing over here for the second equation. So if I subtract 3x, this is something you're going to be doing often, is solving for y. And we divide by -2. Make sure you divide all parts, because we are dividing every single term. This would now become positive 3/2. And this is now -8/3. So if we were to now plug in that -1, 0, 1, it will give us 3 ordered pairs, right? So if I plug in -1, do it up here, x equals -1. We get y equals 3/2 times -1 minus 8/3. It's not nice, right? So this gives us -3/2 minus 8/3. And then you got to do a common denominator. So this would be -9 minus 16. It's -25/6. It's horrible. And it's fine. I mean, I'm not even checking my work here. This could be completely wrong. But what I always do is that when this happens is I go back and I want to find a nice number. So this just has to be true. So I already know that 2 times 4 would be 8. So if I make x 0 and I make y -4, then that would be 0 plus 8 is equal to 8. Right? So 0 comma 8 is a solution. So I know 1 probably doesn't work either. What other way can I make 8? Well, I know if I multiply this by 2, I get 6. So if I make this a 1 with a negative, I would get 6 plus 2. 6 plus 2 is 8. So this would be 2 comma -1. There's an infinite number of solutions. So to find them, you can solve for y, or you could just plug numbers in. But we're going to be doing this later, and then later on, as you get through here, you will know what they look like. So you will know that if it has an x squared and a y, it's a parabola. In fact, this is an upside down parabola. And that if it just has x and y, we know it's a line. And we'll talk about slope and everything as we get on. But right now, it's just getting used to plugging in numbers, finding solutions, plotting those points, and so on. So to make that easier right now, to know what it looks like, we're going to be using Desmos. So what we're going to do is graph these two into our calculator with Desmos. So if you click on the desmos.com or type in desmos.com, it will take you there. And this is Desmos. So if we go back to our equation, we're going to type in y equals 0.3x squared minus 4. So you just click right here, bring up the calculator keyboard. You can do ABC if you don't have it. Y equals, and it's 0.3x squared minus 4. So 0.3x squared minus 4. And there's our graph. And you notice it's giving you points. We're going to talk about these special points later. But if you pick any point, see there's an infinite number of points as you move along this graph. So if you need solutions, you just keep moving along until you find a nice one. There's another nice one right here, right? So a lot of solutions to this equation, but there is our graph. All right. So let's do a quick little picture of it. It's at 0, -4. That's our nice one, and then it's going to go up. So we just want a nice rough sketch right now so that we have it. So our x and y axis, remember that's x and that's y. And it was at 0, -4, so we can mark that one. And then we just do a nice rough sketch. It's all I need right now. It's just that you're playing with the calculator and you have it in a nice standard viewing window. So let's try our next one. Y equals -2, x plus 5 plus 4. So let's go back to Desmos. If you hit the X button, it'll disappear. Bring up the keyboard again, ABC, Y equals, there's also a Y here, -2 square root. So -2 square root, and it will put it as underneath. So x plus 5. So x plus 5. Let's see how it took us out, right? So you want to use the delete button to get back in there. So square root x plus 5. It'll keep you in there. And to get out of it, you push the arrow, and now you're outside of the radical, plus 4. And there's our graph. So again, you click on it and see it'll give you all of these points as you move along. So it's our first point, -5, 4. So let's draw our quick rough sketch. And again, I don't need points on this thing. If you want to put x and y and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and plot it that way, that's fine. But then if you're going to do that, make sure you go back and look that it crosses at -1, 0. So right here are 2 points, and it does that. And so this is what radicals will always look like. They have this swoop either down or it'll go up, and we'll talk more about that. And then see there's a square and parabola. So the calculator will tell you its shape. Each equation has its own. All right, what's also going to happen here is you're going to have to do an appropriate window. So you notice I now have large numbers in there. So if we type this one in, so it's 300 and 500. So opening that again, y equals x squared plus 300x plus 500. I got to double check to make sure that was correct. Yes, so x squared plus 300x plus 500. You notice it looks just like a line. Now this has squares and stuff on it, so we know it's not a line. So what you're going to have to do is scroll out. And so if you move the little wheel on your mouse button, you can zoom out. And you notice now it still looks that way. It's over here, right? And now you have the entire graph. It looks like that. So let's go back in. So what you need to do is change it to you have an appropriate window, because you notice it's zooming in, it's not working. So if you click on this little graph settings right here, you can then change your X and Y. So what I like to do is scroll out to, there it is. So it's between negative 300 and 0. So we go on over here, and for this we type in negative 300 and a little bit more. And then a little bit more over here would be like 30 is good enough. But that way we have now the x's. So now what we need is height. So y's. So with an x squared, you know it's an upward parabola. We need to get to the bottom of this. So it's way down there. And the way you can tell what the numbers are is this is 500. These are huge. So we're going to be way down past the 500s. So I say just overshoot it. Put in like a negative 1,000 and then see if you got it. Did we get it? No, because I only typed in negative 100. Let's try that again. Come on. 1,000. I don't know why it's glitching like this, but there we go. And so I can scroll out some more. In fact, I can just move it down here. What we're trying to do is find an appropriate window. So if you scroll out, you can see there's our graph. So it's going down to negative 25,000. So if I come back over here and I type in 305 like we had before and 10, you can see now I have my old thing. I don't have to even change it, but it's finding an appropriate window. When you have your graph, just because it looks like a line doesn't mean it is. You're gonna have to scroll out. You're gonna have to use the settings key to find a picture of the graph, and that's our graph. It's gonna go from negative 300 all the way over to here, that giant graph. So that's what we want to draw. We know it looks like this. It does this. And we know over here is like negative 300, right? And so we know exactly how it looks. So I want you to try the next one. So I want you to hit clear and give me the shape of this graph. So you're gonna hit pause, plug it into Desmos, and then draw the picture, and then come back and hit unpause and check your work. All right, so hit pause now. So your graph should have looked like this. And after zooming out with Desmos, this is what I got. By the way, if you ever want to reset it, if you click the home button, it brings you right back in. And then I just scrolled out until I found it. And I said it was at 400. There it is. Right? And then I can even go, okay, well, I want more of a stretch to it. So I'm going to make this 100 to 10 instead. I don't need to go that low because it's at 0, so I can do like negative 10. And then there's my graph. It's a little bit better, but I want you to just sit there, play with them until you get the full window. So all this is playing around. All right. Last thing we have is for a table. So at the very beginning, you have these sets of ordered pairs. And what we need to do is be able to find those ordered pairs nicely. So we're going to go back to this one that we already have entered, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So if you click back on Desmos, you're going to come up to the plus sign. Underneath the plus sign, you will see table. Add a table, and we can drag that below it so that we have it. So we have our graph here, and so what we want to do is plug these points in, right? You notice I don't have a y equals there. It'll figure it out. If I put a y equals, it's still the same graph. So x1 represents your x values, y1 represents your y, but it's not telling you what it is. So what you want to do is go back in here. If you click right on this little thing, and you want to clear out y1. And what you're going to do is enter in that y1, not y equals, but just the y part. So square root 800 minus 2 and then x. But see, this is not x, this is x sub 1. So to do that, you just put x and then put a 1, and it'll put x sub 1 in there and hit enter. Okay? Now, you're thinking, well, there's nothing there. So what you do over here is you then come in and you put in some numbers. So if I put in 8, it now gave me a point. Oops. Gave me a point. And so if I plug in 10, 100. See, it's putting the points on the graph. So if I want to see negative 100, just hit enter, put in negative 100, and there we go. There's negative 100's point. So you can label any of these, and you can come over here and see, oh, and I see what the point is for 400. So we hit enter to give another row, put in 400, hit enter, and there you go. 400 is 0. So this is how you make a table. So again, it's just push plus, add a table, and input everything in that way. Okay, so here's what I want you to do. I want you to do it for this one now. So I want you to take this one. Let's put our table down here. So we have x, comma, y. Let's go back and grab some points. So 8 was 28. 400 was 0. There's 2 points. It's good enough for now. What I want you to do is create a table using Desmos. So yes, you can sit here and you can plug in -1, 0, and 1. What I want you to plug in is -1, 0, and 1 into that table. Okay, so you're going to go back. You're going to graph this function, and then you're going to have this table set up next to it. So I want you to go back into Desmos, put in the function, and then create a table. So clear these out because I want you to do it from fresh and try that. So hit pause now. Okay, so there's our graph and there's our table values. So some interesting things is if you have this and you just keep hitting enter, you'll see that it keeps going with the sequence. If you enter a sequence, it'll go with the sequence and give you more points. Now, if you had problems entering this in, let me show you how to do that. Let's delete that out. So it's again x, and then you put in 1, and then squared. Now with these, I like to click it again if it gives you issues. Just click it again, and then you put plus 300 x sub 1, and click it again, plus 500. And there are our points for it. So remember, x sub x1, all you have to do is do x and 1. It'll put it in as a sub. But there's all the values. They're up here. See, you can click them all and show them where they are. If you wanted to know what it is down here, you can enter that number in. All right, so we're going to put in 201, 500, and 801. Those are our points for our table. 201, 5, I've already forgotten them. 500, 801. 500, 801. So play with this a lot. You're going to be using it a lot, but that's what we have. So you're going to have basic stuff you enter in, just like here, where it's a nice standard window. You're also going to have to adjust the window by scrolling out or playing with a little wrench to adjust the settings. And you're going to have to make tables to find values. So that's how you're going to do it. There is another way to make values for a table since we are here. You can also do a point, but we're not there yet with functions, but I'll just show it to you now. So if you put in there as a function, so we say f parenthesis x parenthesis, we now have a function. And so you can come down here and do a point. So if you want to find the point 2, comma, and then you can do the function f parenthesis 2 parenthesis. So you can do it as a point now. So since we called it f of x, this would be 2 f of 2. So that's our x and y. And if you label it, there's that point right there. And then you can come in here and pick any point you want. So we can delete that out and put a 3, hit enter, scroll up, and there it is. See, there's our 3. So that's another way to do it, but I think the table is much easier right now to plug it in. If it issues with that, then yes, this will also give a default. Thank you.